Smoke and fire everywhere. SEALs screaming as they're overwhelmed. A small female medic crawls through gunfire, pressing blood-soaked gauze against wounded soldiers. Enemy closing in. A rifle drops right beside her. She abandons her medical bag, grabs the weapon, turns around. A burst of precise shots. The SEAL commander falls silent, then whispers, "Never forget what she did today." Anna Keller, 27 years old. Small frame, long brown hair, gentle eyes. This medic had been attached to the SEAL team for 2 years, saving dozens of wounded soldiers. Every night, she quietly wrote medical journals for each person. Which wounds had been stitched, who needed pain medication, who needed rest. In her teammates' eyes, Anna was always their life-saving angel. But some whispered, "She's amazing at medical work, but in combat, too dangerous." Keller should stay at the field hospital. This place isn't for her. A sergeant shook his head. "She's too weak. If we get ambushed, she won't survive." Anna never argued. She just tightened the straps on her old medical backpack, worn patches everywhere, thinking silently, "If I don't go with them, who will save their lives the moment they fall?" During missions, Anna remained quietly kind, sharing her water rations with young soldiers, carrying heavy packs for teammates with sprained ankles. At night, mending torn uniforms for new recruits. They were grateful, but still didn't believe she could survive under gunfire. Real human detail. A young soldier said, "We didn't criticize her. We just didn't think she could handle it. But she came along anyway, carrying a pack twice her body weight, never complaining once." The truth was, Anna had a secret. Her father had been a Marine sniper. Growing up on a Montana ranch, she'd learned to shoot before she could properly ride a bike. But she never mentioned it. She chose healing over hurting. Until that night, when healing required hurting others. The mission briefing seemed routine. Extract a high-value target from hostile territory. Intelligence suggested minimal enemy presence. Anna checked her medical supplies methodically. Bandages, morphine, chest seals, tourniquets. Everything organized perfectly in her worn backpack. A young SEAL looked at her small frame against the massive gear. "You sure about this, Keller?" Anna nodded quietly. "Always sure." What they didn't know was that Anna's father had trained her every summer from age 8. Not because he wanted her to be a soldier, but because he wanted her to survive. "Being gentle doesn't mean being helpless," he used to say. "The strongest people know when to heal and when to fight." As they loaded the helicopter, Anna caught her reflection in the window. Same gentle eyes, same small hands that had sutured countless wounds. But tonight felt different. Maybe it was the weight of ammunition in her pack. Maybe it was the distant smoke on the horizon. Or maybe it was destiny calling. The helicopter engines roared. Anna closed her eyes and whispered a prayer, not knowing she'd soon need every lesson her father had taught her. Her teammates saw a fragile medic. What they didn't see was a sniper's daughter who could hit targets at 400 yards. Tonight, both sides of Anna Keller would emerge. That night, the SEAL team fell into an ambush in the mountain forest. Bullets rained down like a storm. Flares tore through the night sky. Screaming. Blood everywhere. Anna crawled through gunfire, pressing gauze against a wounded soldier. Bullets whistling past her head. A SEAL shouted, "Keller, fall back! This is a death zone. You won't survive." Anna didn't listen. She just pressed harder on the wound, keeping blood from flowing endlessly. Enemy forces closing in. A SEAL beside her collapsed, his M4 rifle falling right next to her medical bag. Anna looked at the bag, then at the wounded soldier trembling beneath her hands. In that defining moment, she released her medical bag, picked up the rifle. Her movements were decisive, as if she'd practiced thousands of times. Lying flat against the ground, she squeezed the trigger. A burst of shots rang out with absolute precision. 3 enemies dropped instantly. A gap opened in their line. The entire team was stunned. The commander's eyes widened, his throat tight. He whispered, "Never forget what she did today." Real human detail. A wounded SEAL later said, "In that moment, I saw a different Anna. Not the medic anymore, but a true warrior." But Anna wasn't finished. She continued firing. Short, controlled bursts, keeping enemies from advancing while her teammates repositioned. The young soldier whispered, "This isn't something you learn in medical school. She's been trained for this." The team started believing their eyes. Their small medic had just opened their path to survival. When enemy fire decreased, the SEALs counterattacked, pushing back the ambush circle. Anna dropped the rifle and grabbed her medical bag, continuing medical treatment as if she'd never fired a shot. She stitched wounds, injected morphine, performed CPR, blood covering her hands and uniform. The commander knelt beside her, his eyes still fixed on the rifle lying nearby, then gently placed his hand on Anna's shoulder. "Never forget, the whole team is alive. Because of you." Word spread, Medic Keller had some special past, maybe previous training with another unit, but Anna offered no explanations. She just quietly bent down, continuing to stitch wounds. The soldier who once said she shouldn't be in the field stared at those blood-stained hands and whispered, "I was wrong. Without you, we'd all be dead tonight." Later, when someone asked where she learned to shoot like that, Anna paused while bandaging a soldier's arm. "My father taught me when I was 8, she said quietly. "Montana Ranch. He said every person should know how to protect what matters most." She looked around at her wounded teammates. "Tonight, you all mattered most." The team sat in stunned silence. Their quiet medic, their guardian angel, had been their deadliest weapon when needed. But she'd chosen healing over killing, until killing became the only way to heal. A wounded SEAL looked up at her. "Keller, how many did you take down?" Anna finished the bandage and packed her supplies. Enough to bring everyone home. The commander watched her work in the dim light. Blood on her hands, dirt on her face, but the same gentle eyes. "Never forget," he said again, this time to the entire team. They wouldn't forget. They couldn't forget. The small medic who saved them all. After that first burst of gunfire, the SEAL team felt renewed energy. Anna continued firing short, precise bursts, keeping enemies from advancing. A young soldier whispered, "This isn't reflexes from medical school. She's been properly trained." The teammates started trusting their eyes. That small medic had just opened their path to life. When enemy firepower decreased, the SEALs counterattacked, pushing back the encirclement. Anna dropped the rifle and returned to her medical bag, continuing medical treatment as if she'd never fired a shot. She sutured wounds, injected morphine, performed chest compressions, blood staining her hands and sleeves. The commander knelt beside her, his eyes still fixed on the rifle lying nearby, then softly placed his hand on Anna's shoulder. "Never forget. The entire team is alive, thanks to you." Rumors spread. Medic Keller had some special background, possibly training with other forces. But Anna offered no explanations. She just quietly bent over, continuing to stitch wounds. The soldier who once said she shouldn't be in the field stared at those blood-covered hands and whispered, "I was wrong. Without you, we would have died tonight." The truth was more complex than they knew. Anna's father had been a decorated Marine sniper, 2 tours in Afghanistan. When he returned home, he taught his daughter everything he knew, not because he wanted her to be a soldier, but because he wanted her to survive in a dangerous world. "Anna," he used to say while they practiced at the ranch, "being gentle doesn't mean being defenseless. The strongest people know when to heal and when to fight." She'd chosen medicine because healing felt right, but her father's training never left her muscle memory. That night, when her teammates needed protection most, 15 years of training activated instantly. Hours later, when the battlefield finally quieted, the casualty report came in. 0 KIA. 4 wounded, all stable and recovering. In any normal circumstance, it should have been a massacre. But Anna Keller had changed the equation completely. A teammate approached her quietly. "Keller, where did you really learn to shoot like that?" Anna paused while cleaning a soldier's wound. "My father, Marine sniper. He said a medic who can't protect her patients isn't much of a medic." Another SEAL with his arm bandaged asked, "Why didn't you ever tell us you could fight?" Anna organized her medical supplies carefully. "Because I prefer saving lives to taking them. But sometimes—" She paused, looking at her patients. "Sometimes you have to take lives to save many more." The commander approached her later, away from the others. "Keller, I need to understand something." Anna looked up from her equipment check. "Yes, sir?" "That shooting tonight. That wasn't luck or beginner's reflexes." He studied her face. "That was professional-level marksmanship." Anna was quiet for a long moment. "My father trained me from childhood, said the world was dangerous, and gentle people needed to know how to protect themselves and others." The commander nodded slowly. "Why wasn't this in your personnel file?" "Because it was never official military training, sir. Just a father preparing his daughter for reality." He sat beside her on an ammunition crate. "Anna, what you did tonight saved 8 lives, including mine." She looked at her hands, still stained despite washing. "That's why I'm here, sir." "No," the commander said firmly. "You're here for medical support. What you did tonight was far beyond anyone's expectations." Anna met his gaze directly. "When people are dying in front of you, you do whatever it takes to keep them alive, even if it means becoming something you never wanted to be." The commander stood, placing his hand on her shoulder again. "Never forget, Keller. What you did tonight, don't you ever forget it." As he walked away, Anna looked out at her sleeping teammates, all breathing, all alive. She'd kept her promise to her father. Protect what matters most, even if it meant becoming the warrior she'd tried to avoid being. The gentle medic, who could have been a sniper, chose healing over killing, until killing became the only way to heal. The official report only stated, "Medic Keller provided medical support assistance. SEAL team safely extracted." Not a single line mentioned her picking up the rifle. A few days later, in the field mess hall, Anna sat alone with cold soup. Her jacket still stained with blood that wouldn't wash clean. The door burst open. The entire SEAL team walked in. No one whispered anymore. "She shouldn't be in the field." The soldier who once said that placed a cup of black coffee in front of Anna and whispered, I owe you my life." The commander stood behind them, his voice decisive. "Never forget. None of us are allowed to forget that day." No applause, no cheering, only respectful silence filling the room. Anna smiled softly and continued eating, as if everything was perfectly normal. But nothing would ever be normal again. The way her teammates looked at her had changed completely. Not as someone to protect, but as someone who had protected them all. A week later, during routine training, a new recruit asked the sergeant, "Is it true what they say about Keller?" The sergeant, who once doubted her, replied, "Son, what happened that night stays between us. But I'll tell you this: never judge someone's strength by their gentleness." Anna continued her daily routines, checking medical supplies, writing injury reports, treating minor wounds and illnesses. But now, when she walked through the base, conversations paused, not from disrespect, but from recognition. One evening, a young soldier approached her medical station. "Keller, can I ask you something personal?" Anna looked up from inventory sheets. "Go ahead." "Do you ever regret what you had to do that night?" Anna set down her pen and considered the question carefully. "I regret that it was necessary," she finally answered, "but I don't regret doing it." She studied the young soldier's face. "My job is keeping all of you alive and healthy. Sometimes that means bandages and medicine. Sometimes—" she paused meaningfully. "Sometimes it means something completely different." The soldier nodded and started to leave, then turned back. "Thank you, Keller, for everything you do." Anna returned to her paperwork. "Just doing my job." But everyone knew it was much more than that. The quiet medic had become their guardian in ways none of them expected, and they would never forget. There are people who are never highly valued beyond their familiar roles. But when death approaches, they step forward and do what no one expects. Anna Keller was just a small medic. But the moment she dropped her medical bag and grabbed that rifle, she changed the fate of the entire team. The SEAL commander said, "Never forget. If you've ever witnessed someone quietly doing something extraordinary, leave a dot in the comments. And if you believe in stories that touch the heart, subscribe to SN Quiet Stories channel. We tell the stories no one else tells, so that quiet heroes are never forgotten. Some people choose healing over fighting their entire lives. But when the moment comes, when lives hang in the balance, they become exactly what the world needs." Anna Keller never asked for recognition, never wanted medals or glory. She just wanted to bring her teammates home. Every single one of them. Never forget.